Great, hello, thank you for having us. So shortly I'm going to introduce our panel, but first of all tell you a little bit about what this is about. So hello, I'm Kate Martin. So we know that comedy has a unique power to influence perceptions and change minds, but we also all know that balancing messaging and jokes can be pretty high risk. You can approach a comedy project with the best of intentions, but if the audience aren't laughing, it's all for nothing. A bit like now. We're going to take a deep dive into thinking about the challenges, the opportunities, the messaging through comedy, and we'll suggest some strategies for how we can all come together, researchers, charities, comedy creatives can really collaborate to make something funny and impactful. But to do that, I've got a great panel of very funny people to join me. So can you put your hands together and welcome on stage our panel? We've all got it. Wonderful. Welcome on stage. Thank you so much for joining me. Let me introduce you to who we have on stage. First of all, I'd like to introduce Kyla Harris, an award-winning performer, writer, producer, whose work centres intersectionality as a lens to cultivate inclusion and create connection. Co-wrote, co-created and starred in the comedy drama television series We Might Regret This for BBC Two, with season 2 debuting next year. Is that right? Sometime. Okay, good. You were awarded BAFTA Breakthrough 24, and you also won the BAFTA for the Emerging Talent category.
No, lost.
You lost?
I lost. I'm going to put that in my bio. Now I'm going to change it to lost the BAFTA.
You know when you say there's jokes are high risk in comedy? That was just a little example of one of them. All right, I'm going to move swiftly on. So next is Matt Nida, who runs Laughing Matters, OKRE's climate and comedy programme, which focuses on building a model for comedy writers to address climate issues. It affects everybody and everything. Matt is producer, writer and creator with over 2 decades experience making and developing television programmes, live shows and podcasts. And you oversaw the highly acclaimed Joe Lycett versus Sewage documentary and also the BAFTA and broadcaster-winning Joe Lycett versus David Beckham project. Round of applause, please.
Thank you.
And rounding out the panel is multi-BAFTA. Am I the only one without a BAFTA? Does anybody else in this room not have a BAFTA?
I still don't have a BAFTA, Kate.
You still don't have a BAFTA? Yeah. Okay, cool.
I won an Emmy, but not a BAFTA.
Okay, we'll run this together then. Yeah, I don't have any of those. But
also, my BAFTAs are Scottish BAFTAs, not English BAFTAs,
okay, cool.
So they don't count.
Perfect. Okay, this is good to know. Okay, so multi-BAFTA award-winning comedian, writer, and actor Ashley Storrie, who co-created, co-wrote, and starred in the acclaimed BBC Scotland comedy series Dinosaur. The show was nominated for 4 Scottish BAFTAs, with Ashley winning the awards for writer, film, television, and audience award Best Scot on Screen.
Beat 2 Doctor Who's and a slow horseman, and a baby reindeer.
Slow pony, I love that. Is that the prequel to Slow Horses? Yeah.
It mainly was just I was better at Facebook than them, but still won. So haha, David Tennant, put that up your hole.
Amazing. That is the quote of the panel so far. You've also recently wrapped on Dinosaur season 2, and you do loads of work with the National Autistic Society and have hosted and appeared on loads of panels discussing neurodivergence. Welcome to our panel, please. And now, having introduced them, we're going to go to something entirely different. So let's have a look at, in the past, how some classic British comedies have subtly but influentially explored messaging via a well-timed joke. Let's go to the QT, please.
I remember who you are now.
No, it's all right, son. You can have a full rebate.
Bell Trotter, right?
Hang about. I remember your mum. I remember very straight lady, proud, churchgoer and all that.
Yeah. She won't know nothing about this, though.
Oh, no. How are you going to explain away £60,000 then, eh? Christmas bonus from the job centre. Listen, Lennox, there are millions of people out there in the same boat as you, but they don't go around robbing everyone.
Look, I haven't had a job right in 6 years.
Well, nor has Rodney.
I've got no future.
Nor has Rodney.
Look, I haven't done a day's work since I left school, Del.
It's a tough old world, Lennox.
Now, that is a miracle.
If you so much as sniggers, I'm going straight back indoors.
We do have to keep these youngsters in check.
I quite agree. Pity they discontinued national service. That's the stuff to give them.
Oh, yes. Up at 6 o'clock in the morning, cold shower, hike for 30 miles in full kit, grovelling through the undergrowth with only a compass and your initiative to get you home.
You were in the army then?
No, I went on a package holiday to Benidorm.
I can tell by the last, some of you remember those first time round, some of you absolutely don't. But Matt, you selected these clips. What was it that led you to pick these? Why these shows?
Well, I mean, basically, in British comedy, you can sort of throw a dart kind of anywhere into British comedy history and you find someone doing something sort of interesting and impactful. So really, sort of, you need a full season to kind of do it justice rather than 90 seconds. But I think it's just really interesting how these shows were massive, like massive shows, and yet they were bringing a lot of new stuff very impactfully into people's living rooms. So you've got a show like Only Fools and Horses, perhaps the British sitcom, and it's it is all about poverty. It's all about the resilience needed to sort of keep going in that situation and to sort of lift yourself out of it. And yet it doesn't play out like a Ken Loach film. It's not downbeat. It's very life affirming. We love those characters. And in that clip there, so Lennox, the guy who's doing the hold up, he has an opportunity to lay out a really sort of structural argument that explains how he has ended up in this situation. And we were able to understand, and Del Boy and Rodney, they sort of relate to him. Also, that episode was watched by 16.5 million people, and obviously we're in YouTube headquarters and they work on a different scale. There's more numbers at the end of their viewing figures. But I mean, that is enormous for telly. Good Life was talking about climate and sustainability issues, before that was a thing that the mainstream were talking about, and also showing the challenges that come with trying to live a sustainable lifestyle. It's really honest about that as well. And then Are You Being Served at the end? You've got Mr. Humphreys, who is a queer character who is having an absolute ball. He's running rings around everyone else. He's the smartest guy in the room. The guy who looks silly in that clip is the conservative old sort of fuddy-duddy, really. And I think sometimes, sometimes you look at old comedy and always the thing that sort of hits you first is kind of all the things that you wouldn't necessarily do today. So, yes, of course, if you wouldn't necessarily have the only black character in the shot being the guy who's doing the hold-up, Mr. Humphreys, yes, plays as a bit of a sort of stereotype. Now you maybe wouldn't necessarily write a character like that now. But, if you can sort of look past all the things that have changed, the shock of what these shows were doing in front of like a massive audience is huge and still really striking, I think.
Ashley, what were your thoughts when you saw those clips?
I think you all heard my big stupid laugh. I thought it was funny. I enjoy it. I mean, The Good Life, to me, every time it comes on, it's mainly just my dad talking about how important that lady's chest was when he was a young man. The next door neighbour who's doing the digging. He's like, oh, it's just cracking set of chebs on her. I mainly just wanted to see what the sign language for cheb was, and now I know. So
educational as well as funny.
Yes.
Yeah, great, okay. Great. Kyla, any thoughts?
I'd watch.
Follow that, basically.
Yeah. I can't. I could never follow Ashley.
It's because I'm sneaky.
I mean, I'd watch them.
Good chat, thanks. I think actually one of your comments when Matt said it was the clip had 16 million views on telly. I think your next comment was.
I've got a video of me dressed as Harry Potter shouting ball bag that's got like 39 million views. So.
No pressure though. We'll show that after maybe.
Know what? I think I said I watch them because I grew up in Canada. This isn't my land. I have imported myself here and also kind of adopted the British humor and understanding. So a lot of these programs, like this is comedy that I don't know, but they're clearly national treasures.
100%. And like you're saying, Matt, the things might have changed. We might not write characters like that now, but for queer people, seeing the queer characters like that, for example, in that time, it can be transformative to see yourself in something, particularly at a time when something is so, it is so much more kind of constricted than it is now. Those things were, things have moved on massively, but those were liberating for people at the time. But let's move more to the present day. So when you all begin your own creative processes and you want to weave in some kind of purpose, what's your preferred way of saying, look, we've got some takeouts, we've got some messages, but we don't want to sort of hit people over the head with it. Ashley, let's come to you first on that.
I think when I start writing, I don't think, how can I make this socially profound? I'm like, how can I fit bad jokes into a BBC sitcom and get away with using the C word once per season, which they have allowed me. Thank you, BBC Three. I appreciate you for that. But it's just, I start off trying to think about what's funny, and then if you write authentic characters who are authentic people with authentic problems, you end up kind of just putting that social important message in by default. But sometimes it's kind of like, you see those mums on Facebook who are like, what my picky toddler ate today, and she's just like aggressively blending up broccoli and hiding it in a cheese sauce. Sometimes I feel like that's what I'm doing, but with with messaging. It's just hiding the broccoli in amongst boob jokes. So yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Nice. We've got some broccoli and cheese sauce for you all afterwards. Kyla, how about you? What's your take on that? How do you approach it?
Well, I feel like I come into any room and people are like, "That's the broccoli." You know? so I just have an inherently political visage. So I feel like I can't write from any other perspective. And obviously I can, but it's my lived experience is as a stem of broccoli is really authentic to me and what I know and how I experience the world. And I can't separate, I'm a queer disabled person of color, and I can't separate any of those identities. And so I just flop them all out in the room.
I love that. Flop away, mate. Matt, and how about you? How do you approach it how do you think about it? Yeah,
I mean, it's not to be all sort of, I reject the premise of the question, but I don't think it's a sort of either or thing, really. I think, especially in this country, our sort of sense of humour, sort of very little is off limits. There's sort of no line. We will laugh at anything in this country, sort of mental health, cancer, illness, death, all of these sort of huge, heavy topics. And sort of humour is kind of how we understand these things and how we break them down and how we make them sort of more approachable. So when you start from the position that there's nothing that can't be funny, I think the question isn't like, how do I balance, the messaging alongside the jokes? It's that you look at what you're writing about and you go, well, what is funny about this? And there will always be something, and that's always got to be the starting point, I think.
Brilliant, fantastic. Right, okay, well, now let's take a look at some of your work. So, Kyla, Ashley, we've got clips from both of your shows. Let's play those now.
But Mum and Dad are not going to be happy about this.
We're so happy about this. How's your day going?
My sister's marrying some guy she's only known for 6 weeks, and my parents think it's a brilliant idea because they lack critical thinking skills, and I've lost my favourite pen.
My sister's still going to need me.
Will you be my maid of honour?
This island has no idea what's coming to it.
Surprise!
Feels really nice having you here.
This isn't your home.
We have to make this work.
I'm with the guy I've always wanted in the city. I have always wanted.
So how's the sex?
Sex is the best sex.
I was joking.
I always wondered whether it worked with you down there.
Oh, it works.
Another one having a midlife crisis, albeit a very inclusive one.
Brands are dying to put you in their ads. As a proud, white, disabled woman.
I'm not white.
Who is?
Brilliant. Round of applause for those two clips, please. Fantastic. So, I mean, it's pretty clear you both succeeded in being funny and sort of authentically yourselves. So, what are you doing when you've started on this before, but when you're starting out writing? Are you starting with the funny? Are you starting with the broccoli, as you say? Kyla, over to you first.
Yeah, I suppose again, they can't be separated for me. I think that everything is inherently political, whether we like it or not, and everything is inherently funny, whether we like it or not.
Ashley.
I think a lot of the stuff I get asked is you're doing autism representation and you're an autistic person representing autism, and I think that there's quite a lot of autistic people on the telly. I'm one of the 3 Scottish people allowed on English telly, and that makes me feel more anxious, is that I'm representing Scotland. There's 5 million of us and 4 are allowed on telly, and 2 of them are Scottish autistic women, me and Fern. So I don't know how that's putting us across. It's just really angry women who like things a certain way. But it's all about comedy. I was raised in stand-up comedy, so it's always about the laughs for me. Like you said, anything can be funny, but I think if it comes from a place of knowledge, then it is funny. If it comes from a place of, oh, wouldn't it be fun to laugh at the jocks, then it's not. So I think that's where the line is, and that's where we teeter along.
So it's more about laughing because people are associating with it, right? Rather than laughing at the other. It's like we're kind of allowing people into our worlds. Like you're bringing people into sort of seeing the funny side of lives that people perhaps just haven't seen before, right?
Yeah, and I think that, like, my daddy is a straight, white, autistic man who doesn't leave the house. He's recently widowed. One of his favourite programmes is called Reservation Dogs. That's about kids who live in a reservation, Native American kids. And he watches that and he's like, it's just like my childhood in the East End of Glasgow. But he resonates with that because it's the storytelling, it's true stories, and he feels that. So I think that that's proof that it's just about, if you're authentic, you can find relatability in anything. And I think that we should focus on that rather than the kind of things that divide us.
The best feedback I ever get after a gig for me is, I'm a queer woman, I do stand-up. The best feedback for me is actually not from other queer people. I often get really big, hefty, straight, like white builders coming up to me going, I love that leisure stuff, mate. And I'm like, but it's allowing them into, like, I'm like, okay, maybe you could have framed that differently. But like, they're associating with something they haven't associated with before. Like, there's no apology for it, not that there needs to be for sure, but like, there's a connection there that they don't know my world, but they're kind of coming into that and seeing something different for the first time. You were going to come in then, Kyla, and say something.
And then I got lost in what you were saying. So no, I think it's also kind of, no, I don't know what I was going to say.
I imagine it was fascinating.
It was groundbreaking.
Matt, you were talking about, you were going to come to you about, like, do you start with the funny? Do you start with the broccoli? Like, what comes first for you? Like, where did your head go first?
Well, I mean, when you think sort of from an audience perspective, what do we laugh at? We laugh at things that we find or know to be true. So it's like you were saying, it's authenticity is funny, whether or not that's sort of your experience of the world or not. You recognise a truth in something. That old sort of cliche, it's funny because it's true. It's sort of, it's funny because it's true, is true. That it's the sort of, and I think all of the comedy sort of great characters as well have always had that element of truth in it. It's like, Basil Fawlty famously sort of based on a real hotel manager that John Cleese sort of met on holiday. So many of the sort of the Dad's Army cast did service and were sort of in the home garden on the home front. It comes from this place of truth, and I think audiences have really good sort of bullshit detectors, and they know when something is being put on or when they're being lied to. And it's comedy's superpower, is that ability to just sort of zap through those gaps and just connect people because there's a truth at the heart of it, I think.
But do you find sometimes the things that are the most real, people are just like, nah, that would never. Like, we were chatting backstage, right, and being like, sometimes like things people will say or do, like, you can't put that in comedy because people think it's too on the nose. Like, do you then have to think through, like, are people, even though it is real, it is authentic, are people going to believe that or not?
Yeah, like I feel that a lot, and I think there's probably people who've written in this room who've written down their true life experiences, and some person, no, I don't imagine that would happen. I was raised in a
Is it always someone who speaks like that?
Yep.
Yeah.
I was raised in a gangster family by autistic gangsters. True facts. My mum became a stand-up comedian after we became homeless, and we decided to go into stand-up comedy. And then my parents got caught with guns and Semtex.
It doesn't seem like a natural progression of.
No, it wasn't. It was
let's go into stand-up comedy.
It was very much like a sideways move rather than.
Yeah.
Because there's a big similarity between gangsters and stand-up comedians. They're all just attention seekers. Anyhow. But when you try and explain that, I remember pitching it was one of my first things, and I was like, it's autobiographical and it's my true story and it's about how my parents got caught with guns, but they got away with it because they faked a will. And I got told, no, that's really unbelievable. And I was like, no, but it I was there. I saw it happen, but it is really hard sometimes when the truth is stranger than fiction to push that. But those are the best stories, aren't they? When you meet just like a mad person at the bus stop who's like, wait till I tell you my magical journey.
So how do you then weave that into then when you're writing? Like, are you often thinking like, hang on, how is this going to land? Like, are people really going to kind of go with this?
Well, I think it always has to come from character, and I think like whether it's funny or if you're looking for funny or impact or both simultaneously, it has to come from the character. And I think the whole, I mean, if you have watched the show, if my show, We Might Regret This or not, there is a peeing in the alleyway scene, and yes, I have had my pee in many people's mouths unintentionally. And it's like you don't think that you're going to get into these situations, and that is like also what you're going to put on screen too. So I think that there's this idea that that seems unbelievable, but actually like there's so much truth in also the kind of, I guess, in also the scenarios that you don't expect to make up end up seeming truthful, and then the ones that are more authentic don't. Yeah.
I mean, are you basically just going through life and something happens, you go, I've got a good 5 minutes out of that?
Literally every trauma that hits me, I'm like, ooh, this will be a Fringe show.
Yeah. I have a co-writer, Lee Getty, who I wrote this with, and about 6 months ago, my dad died, and I was there, and I. This is very intimate and personal, but my dad was quite. He lost his inhibitions near his death, and so I ended up. He just like would just throw his pants down anytime randomly, and I'd be like, "There's my dad's dick and balls. There they are. Yeah, didn't think I was going to see that today." And I tell my co-writer about that, being in this like part kind of grieving process of being like, well, this is what's happening today, and she'd be like, we need to write about that. And I was just like, not the reason why I was saying that.
I like we were talking about this earlier, because I'm in a similar place where my mum passed away a year ago this weekend, and when she died, my dad couldn't go to the funeral, so instead he went to the village where Harry Styles was raised. And he ended up in an old woman's house in her unofficial Harry Styles museum. Bought pebbles off her that she'd painted Harry Styles' face onto. And all the while I'm like, that's really shit that you couldn't come to my mum's funeral and you left me alone. But at the same time, this is going to be a great episode of my Radio 4 show. So thank you very much, Dad.
So at the same time as getting material from life, it is a way of, let's just go back to the point you were making before, Matt, about we've always found ways of laughing at things. And part of that is like, it's not just about having messaging, it's coping, it's processing, it's like, it's owning something, right? Are we going to be affected by something? Are we going to own it and turn it into something else, which is kind of what you were sort of saying about your kind of dad's experiences, like your experience with your dad, like it's a way of owning it and shaping grief in a way that others will also then be able to relate to, I guess. So the other things we were talking about is like the fact that we are even here talking about like having to represent certain experiences is a bigger question in and of itself, right? Why is there certain people, certain experiences, certain characteristics, certain identities that people feel like we are having to represent something? Like I don't sit in a green room. I don't know if you sit in many comedy writing rooms where people are going, where a straight white middle-aged guy's going, I really wonder how I'm going to represent accurately the experiences of people like me. Like they're so normalized, they're so out there. And I think that's what we're trying to do, right, is just represent our own experiences. But why do you think there is this pressure to be seen as representing something? Like, what's that about?
Well, I feel like it's kind of like, I don't know if anyone here has noticed, but the world is quite unequal.
What?
Yeah. Surprise. So it feels kind of like we have to almost try and balance the scales. And I think that's our job as kind of creators and artists and people in the media or making media is like, I guess I feel like a friend of mine I was like super stressed out. It was close. We were in pre-production, and a friend of mine who's in film said to me, "Oh, Kyla, I don't know why you're so stressed out. It's not like you're saving lives." And I was like, actually, I was like, I may not be an ER doctor, but I feel like if someone sees my work and relates to my experience and feels more understood and more seen and more accepting of themselves and other people, then I am indirectly an ER doctor.
Here we go. Yeah, but does that knowing that, and I think that is totally true. Like you're going to reach people that in other forms couldn't do, and speak to people who have never seen themselves or their experiences out there and in such a kind of like a funny, thoughtful, empowering way. But does that do you feel like a responsibility towards that? Like, is that a byproduct of what you're doing, or do you feeling like, there's a bit of a weight around that?
Well, I mean, like I say, like I'm kind of inherently political. We're all inherently political. Like whether we, any decision we make, any way we choose to spend our time, spend our money, whatever, is political. And I guess it's really just kind of, wait, what was the question? That last part of the question?
Was anyone listening?
Sorry, I didn't get the buff.
It was more like, do you feel there's a responsibility because of that? Like, are you?
Oh yeah.
Rather than just thinking, this is what I'm going to tell, this is my experience, this is what the stuff I think is funny, I want to get out there. But because it isn't shown, do you feel there's a responsibility that goes?
Yeah, I suppose like I do feel a responsibility because there are so few wheelchair users who are actual wheelchair users that are on screen. But I'm also kind of like, if you want to tokenize me, like, go for it. Like, if you're going to pay me to be in a room as the, like, queer disabled person of color, like, if that gets me in the room, great. Like, tokenize the shit out of me.
You heard it here first, guys.
But I think we both spoke about that. Like, that's what got... If I hadn't been autistic, I wouldn't have been brought on as a consultant on Dinosaur, and then I ended up being a co-creator, and then I ended up being a writer, and then I ended up being an executive producer, but none of that happens unless I'm autistic. I studied filmmaking at university. I worked for 10 years to try and get jobs in television and film, and it never happened until they needed an autistic person. And then I went in and I did my absolute best, and I think I did a good job, and then I got hired by other companies to write other stuff that wasn't sad autistic lady stuff, and that's really great. But it was the autism that got me through the door, and it's great because everybody thought I was a nepo baby from my mum, but I'm not. It's nepotism because I got it from my dad, or Tylenol, I'm not sure. Anyhow.
But do you feel that responsibility that comes with that? Like, are you just...
Thank you. That was a really good joke, and I'm really pleased with it.
Are you feeling a responsibility with that though? Again, are you just going out and writing stuff that is about you and your world, or like what you said earlier, like you feel more responsibility about presenting, like about being a Scottish person, but like where does that responsibility sit with you around those kind of forms of representation?
It's everything. It's being Scottish, it's being autistic. I come from a working class background. It's being chubby. Like there's not many women my shape on television. There's not many tall women on television. There's not many women on television doing this.
I'm quite tall, by the way. If anybody does want to get me on TV, I am 6'1".
But there is like a totem of like, here are all the, and you get Instagram messages, and it's not always like, oh, I'm autistic. It's like, oh, I'm a chubby girl too, or I've been called Hagrid too. And then I'm like, oh, well, I'm glad I could make you feel better. But there's all these things, and I saw this thing about Martin Scorsese. There's a great documentary about him, and how when we talk about like Greta Gerwig or stuff, it's like she's the women's director. She makes films for women, but nobody ever says about Martin Scorsese, he's the man's director. He makes films for men. He just makes films about the human experience and being a gangster and that. So I wish I could just live in a world where I was just allowed to be a bit of a dick and write funny jokes and not... Thank you.
Just
no, one person clapping sounds like one person wanking, so we all have to join in, or not at all. But I wish I could just be funny and that was it. But as it is, I can't, so I'm going to use whatever I can to get through the door. I'm doing it.
Yeah. So the next... sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, and I also feel like I'm actually just not funny.
No,
I seriously I'm not. My mom thinks I am, but that doesn't count. Thank you, Ashley. But it's also kind of that thing. It's like I do think that there's so much humor to be found in these situations, but there's also something like, if I was to do a drama about a wheelchair user, like nobody would watch that. They'd be like, there are too many already. Yeah.
So like you feel like the humor's coming out of the situations rather than like being driven necessarily by you, but it's about like finding the funny in the shit that happens in the world.
Yeah.
Matt?
The thing I'd add as well is that I think producers need to sort of take their responsibility seriously, sort of in that regard. So sort of as a producer on all the stuff I'm doing, like I am being entrusted with other people's stories, other people's truths, other people's authenticity to sort of bring it to the screen. And I think there are so many sort of headwinds that can come at you, especially in TV, where sort of you get sort of commissioner demands or exec demands, or sort of the balancing everyone's needs that can sort of blow a project off course. And I think, one of the things, Paris Lees was talking about this morning, one of the things that is, I think a really crucial part of that producer role is to sort of identify and safeguard that authenticity and that truth at the heart of it. So that with all of the other things that can, TV can be a bit of a lottery in terms of whether or not the idea as you have it is what eventually makes it to screen. You've got to kind of like hold on to that truth at the heart of it to make sure that is what survives through.
What has your experiences been of that, though? So when you're writing stuff and then it's received by other people involved in that kind of production or development process, do you feel like you're having to fight your corner sometimes, or how other people react to that? Or like, sometimes when you're speaking like from your own experience, you can see the people going, ooh, because it's new to them or it's a bit raw for them or whatever. Like, how has that happened to you through the development processes?
I do a co-pro exec, so I have BBC Scotland, BBC Three, and Hulu are all commissioners of Dinosaur. So those are 3 separate people with 3 separate sets of notes that come back for every episode. And sometimes it's just explaining like a Scottishy thing, because Hulu will be like, "Oh, I don't get that," and I'll be like, "No, it's fine. It's a term of endearment where I come from. I'm talking about the C word again." But it's just like those little things, and I think I'm pretty good at the dance. I'm really good with notes. I'm not that precious. I think it's because I started my career writing erotic fan fiction, and so I can take a lot of criticism and feedback. So I just like to say, as we're in an internet,
to this fiction that we can.
Oh yeah, but as I'm in an internet building, thank you so much, fanfiction.net and AO3 for supporting my career up until now. You have been great. No, one person clapping again sounds like a wank.
What about you? I've completely forgot what my own question was now after you've just said that. What was the question?
You were asking about, hold on, rewinding in my head. You were asking
about how the people receive, like when you're like, you're writing stuff from your experience and it is like the gritty reality of kind of our lives, right? How are the people experiencing that through the production process? Do you feel like people are trying to like tone it down? Do you have to manage their perspectives about it? Like, have you ever had any of that kind of stuff?
Oh, so much of that stuff. So much.
Sounds like you really love it.
I love it. I think that there's like, again, it goes back to like whether it's believable or not. I think, again, a lot of people are like, nah, this won't happen. I'm like, it did last Saturday at 3 p.m. So there's a lot of like, not that I should be convincing someone that something has happened to me, but like that it has. And then, yeah, it's almost like I feel like my parents never divorced. My parents were together until my dad died recently. But I feel sometimes like I'm the child of like parents who are fighting when it comes to commissioners and producers, because it's you get a bit of that like, well, now you get like one note that contradicts the other and da da da. So it is difficult, but it is also something that I think that is really important to test your own intuition in writing and creativity as well.
Also, I find it like a puzzle. Like, I love getting notes and I love trying to solve the problem, because it is just like doing a puzzle, and then I get delighted. And then they think, oh, we'll give her more notes because she loves it. And I am the digger of my own grave.
Basically, just bringing it on yourself. Give me more notes. So we know that people with lived experience are the best place to kind of write comedies and represent our lives. But what would help in the kind of what would you change in the wider production process for people with this to land? Like, so not just people with lived experience writing and putting that forward. Like, what could we do in like production teams to make this better?
I feel like the idea of opening up casting a lot more, so that there's like a difference between kind of intentional representation and incidental representation. And I think that even if you have you look at like your cast and you go, oh wow, we don't actually have any disability representation, it's like, kind of slap that on, like get someone who's disabled cast in a incidental role that has nothing to do with being disabled. Like if there's like a shopkeeper, like make the shopkeeper disabled, like whatever. But and I think a lot of people are afraid of that in a sense as well, of the incidental representation and doing that, because they go, oh well, maybe it needs to be actually, maybe we need to give them lines. Maybe they do need to have a backstory. And it's like, no, it's like, just make sure that there's support for that disabled person, and make sure that, you're thinking widely about the world and representing the world that we live in.
I was going to say as well, I mean, I think sort of speaking from the production process, it's about being aware of what your own gaps are and where you need help and to collaborate and bring people in. I mean, I think when I was doing the Joe Lycett versus Sewage documentary, where we sort of had 44 minutes in order to explain the entirety of this problem, make some recommendations for solutions, but also have some silly sketches and a stunt and some knockabout and all of those kind of things as well. We sort of realised that if we tried to sort of do this ourselves with I was going to say going on Google, not there's anything wrong with that, but sort of, Wikipediaing it or something, then we were going to come rapidly unstuck. So what we ended up doing was bringing a load of scientists and water pollution experts into the writer's room. And then suddenly you kind of opened up this situation where everyone was able to do their best work in that situation. We had experts bringing expertise and we had funny people adding funny. And it sort of worked out.
So at the moment, we've talked a lot about where at the moment certain people are sort of seen as having to represent something. But where would you hope that gets to in the next 5-10 years? What do you hope will change around that, Ashley?
So, in Star Trek, Gene Roddenberry wrote Star Trek. He said that the reason why there's no gay characters or there's no characters who identify as anything is because it's a future where there is no anything. We are all just people, and that is the social framework in which we live. I'm going to tell you now, I wrote my dissertation on representation of gender and sexuality in Star Trek. Anyhow, I think that it would be really nice, like I said earlier, to just be able to be and just be a writer and be funny and not have to have it be and she's autistic and she's this. That would be super nice. But at the same time, I'm hyper aware that I'm a host on BBC Radio Scotland and I'm one of the only neurodiverse hosts on BBC Radio Scotland, and I've been there for 7 years and they're currently having a shake-up, and I'm but they probably won't sack me because they can't sack the only neurodiverse person. So at the same time, I'm using it as my Spider-Man suckers to hold on to that building as long as humanly possible. But I'd like to come to a place where we can all just be funny or be dramatic or be whatever and not have it be because of this.
Matt, what about you? 5 to 10 years, where would you like to see things?
Well, I think it's, you sort of feel that things are moving in the right direction with the sort of, an increased range of voices now that are getting the opportunity to sort of speak to things. But I think it's the, sort of almost not treating representation as a genre, in and of itself. It's like the genre is comedy, and it's because we find life funny and we find things interesting. It's like with the sort of climate comedy work that I'm doing with OKRE. It was sort of interesting that there were decades where actually climate themes were coming up pretty organically in shows that weren't trying to be climate content. But then as soon as you go, we need some climate content, you immediately cannot think of anything funny about sort of polar bears or whatever. So it's sort of, this stuff will come out if we allow, as broad a range of voices as possible to speak their truth, and it will be funny.
Brilliant. Kyla?
I kind of see identity as a superpower, because I think the more people that identify with certain parts of themselves, the more connection you can actually create, because you're going to have something in common with another person who identifies. And actually, ultimately, we're all outsiders, and I think we all kind of have felt alone or isolated within a group or crowd at some point. In fact, I'm feeling very alone right now. No, I'm just kidding. But so I think that in 5 to 10 years, it would be great to see identity as not something that divides us, but as something that unites us.
Brilliant. Nice one. And our last message, we're nearly at time now. I can't believe we got there already. But what if we could just do one takeout from each of you? We're thinking about how sort of researchers, creative, charities can all work better together to produce things that are sort of funny and impactful. What would your one brief message be for that to happen?
Tokenize everyone by including them.
I love that. Matt?
It's, once again, just collaborate.
Hire more Scottish people were really funny, and you don't have to bring an English crew up to film The Traitors in Scotland. Thank you.
Fantastic. I mean, there's not much more to say, really. Just a massive thanks to our panel. Please put your hands together one more time for our panel. Thanks for joining us. And let's hope in 5 to 10 years, we're here talking about something entirely different. Thanks so much, guys.